everybody. Welcome back and happy Fossil Day. I'm from the Western Science Center with the Alf Museum.
Almost there.
We're almost there. Thank you for sticking with us, or tuning in, or you have not been here the whole day. We appreciate all of your reviews. Welcome to our Livestream event. And today we're asking the question, why are museum collections important? Museums are not just exhibits that you see when you visit, but they have much more behind the scenes. And so that's what we're showing today by going to museums across the country. And today, we are going to visit with my museum, the Western Science Center, and I've brought a lot of my coworkers here today. Not all of them. I want to give a shout out to the rest of our collection staff, our collections manager, Darla Radford, collections assistant, Margaret Oslins. So we're going to show you our collections, but for us, that also includes our prep lab, our 3D printing lab. So it's many faceted at the Western Science Center. So hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Yeah, so we have Brett Dooley, one of our educators, Leah Collins, our fossil lab manager. Hello. And Dr. Andrew McDonald, our curator, who will help feature heavily in the video that we are about to show you. So if you guys have any questions about our collections, 3D printing, or fossil prep, these guys will be standing by to answer your questions. So go ahead and put them in the Q&A when you like. And Gabe, whenever you are ready, we are ready for our tour.
All right, the second best museum tour it is.
Hey!
I'm just kidding. I'm outnumbered. I should stop talking. Okay, here's your tour. Here's your tour. Enjoy.
Hello, Fossil Friday chat viewers. Welcome to the Western Science Center. I'm Brittany Stoneberg. I'm one of your hosts of Fossil Friday chats, along with Gabriel Santos of the Alf Museum. And today for National Fossil Day, we're going to take you on a peek behind the scenes at the Western Science Center and our collections. So Dr. Andrew McDonald, our curator, is going to take it away.
All right, hello everybody. Happy National Fossil Day. I'm Dr. Andrew McDonald, curator here at the Western Science Center. And I'm standing in our fossil prep lab right now, where we work on fossils that we bring back from the field. We clean all the rock off of them, we stabilize them with glue, and make them ready for research and for exhibit. So right now I'm standing between two tables that contain some fossils that we brought back from the field last year, 2019. These all come from New Mexico. They're from our oldest field area that we work here at the Western Science Center, about 79 million years old. That's from the late Cretaceous, so towards the end of the age of dinosaurs, the Mesozoic era. On the table right here, we have various dinosaur bones, skull bones and some pelvic bones and ribs of a tyrannosaur. So we're prepping these. They're very delicate bones. They're preserved in very hard, unforgiving rock. So it's taking a long time, but the bone preservation is very good. The detail is preserved really well. So we're very excited about that. One of our dinosaurs here at the Western Science Center. On this table, we have two more reptiles from that same field area. They're both turtles. We have one large turtle right here, the whole shell. This is the rounded shell right here. The front of the shell is here, where the head would be poking out of. Tail back here, legs on either side. And another turtle shell back here. So they're very similar to each other. They're both large, rounded turtle shells with not much ornamentation, no grooves or anything really. So they're probably the same type of turtle, freshwater turtle, that lived at the same time as dinosaurs in this area, like the Tyrannosaur over here. So this is really exciting. This is giving us a window on this ecosystem that includes not only giant, bizarre things like tyrannosaurs, but also more familiar things, types of animals that are still around today, like turtles. Here in the prep lab at the Western Science Center, we don't clean only fossil bones. We also clean bones of recently deceased animals, animals that died of natural causes or roadkill that we might discover by the side of the road. So things like coyotes, ground squirrels, and birds. And we clean them with these guys. These are our Dermestid beetles. So these are little flesh-eating beetles that strip a carcass but don't consume the bone. So if you put the carcass of an animal in here, depending on the size of the animal, over a period of weeks or months, these little beetles will eat all the soft parts, all the skin, the muscles, and leaving a nicely stripped skeleton that we can then use to put on display, use it for education purposes, or use it to compare to our fossil bones. Well, I just showed you the prep lab here at the Western Science Center. So after the fossils are all cleaned and stabilized, ready for curation, research, we bring them in here. This is the repository at the Western Science Center. This is where we keep all the fossils, paleontological materials, and archaeological artifacts that we have here at the museum. So right now I'm standing in amongst mostly mastodons found right here at Diamond Valley Lake, which was the site that was excavated in the mid-90s and led to the founding of the Western Science Center to house this unparalleled collection of mastodon fossils, as well as many other Ice Age animals that lived here around 50,000 years ago. So we have a mastodon pelvis, several mastodon skulls here on the shelves, and then, of course, all the drawers back over that way. We have more Ice Age fossils, Miocene fossils, and more late Cretaceous fossils. Well, we're outside at the Western Science Center now. So I've shown you the fossil prep lab and the repository, where we have a whole range of fossils, some very small things like Ice Age rodents, to much larger things like mastodons and dinosaurs. The biggest thing we have in our collection, though, is this right here. This is a whale, a fossil whale from Southern California. It's about 5 million years old. We nicknamed it Mystic. It's one of the baleen whales, so it's related to gray whales, humpbacks, blue whales, right whales, all those animals that are alive today. This gigantic jacket right here, plaster jacket, contains the skull of Mystic, with the back of the skull over here, and then the front of the skull going off this way, and the lower jaws ringing it on either side. So this is a huge animal. This whole skull is about 16 feet long. So we're not quite sure exactly what kind of baleen whale Mystic is. That's something we're still working on. And as you can see, we still have a great deal of prep to do before we can really begin to study and get a handle on this specimen.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew McDonald, for that great insight into the multiple ways that the Western Science Center uses its collections to protect, preserve, and learn about fossil history. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and stick around for a live Q&A with some of our staff members. Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that tour of our collection space at the Western Science Center. Like I said, we kind of wanted to show off. We've got 3D printing, we've got collections, we've got fossil prep, so we have all sorts of things going on. So now I'm ready to give my amazing colleagues some questions. So let's see.
I have a question.
Here's a question.
Okay,
Oh,
go
go for it.
Okay,
Go
cool.
for it, Gabe. Go for it. Go.
The question I have been asking everybody: how has the global pandemic and lockdown affected your work at the Western Science Center? For each of my colleagues here on the screen today.
That's a good one. I'll take it. For me, I was out of work for about a month, but since I have preparatory things I need to do, there's an exhibit coming up, and I have a lot of Tyrannosaur to clean, which is very exciting. I was able to go back for limited hours with limited staff about a month afterwards. So honestly, I really, really missed all the guests
very much, and our volunteers too. I really miss our volunteers. I have about 10, 15 prep volunteers, and I have missed them, but it has been really nice to be in the lab by myself. We've gotten a lot of fossils completed, and I normally wouldn't be able to get that amount of fossils done in that short amount of time, because sometimes they can take years to complete even. Like Mystic that you saw in the video is going to take us at least 5 years or more to get out of it. We're still working on the small jacket, and we haven't even hit the big jacket yet of Mystic. So, you know, it's been kind of exciting for me to be able to actually complete a lot of things more quickly than normal. So. Andrew, anybody else?
I'd say time in the prep lab for all of us has been limited to some degree. You know, I'm going to the prep lab usually once a week, maybe twice a week, to work on fossils. The big thing, I suppose, is from a research point of view, we had to cancel all of our field work this year, both locally here in California and in our farther flung field areas, just for the safety of the crew and the local communities. So we'll get back out there, but it's a bit difficult to lose field work for an entire year. Other than that, you know, it's things like scientific conferences either being canceled or going virtual. In fact, this week is the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting, which went virtual. So they still have a lot of talks uploaded and posters. So it's still able to keep track of the current research, but not really able to interact with a lot of colleagues face to face, like at a normal conference. So yeah, it's a year of change, but everyone at the museum is healthy, so that's the important thing.
And I've been fortunate enough to early on be able to come into the museum to work on 3D printing the PPE when the outbreak was just beginning. And I have gotten to come in and do some prep work with Leah or when Leah is not here, and continue working on the research that I do with education.
Yeah, we, despite the museum being closed to the public, we've been quite busy behind the scenes, like in pretty much all aspects, which I think is true for a lot of museums. Just because the public's not able to visit doesn't mean we're not still working really hard. Obviously, we're doing this too, so there's lots of these happening at all of these sorts of museums across the country. Great question.
Yeah, and
okay.
Really quick, I have to say,
what
you all were doing with 3D printing the PPE during the very beginning of the lockdown and pandemic, I thought that was so awesome. And so, really big props to all of you for finding a way to utilize, these printers that were being used for science for a little bit, for a way to help protect others. So I think that's so great of the Western Science Center. So thank you, I guess, for doing all that.
Oh, thanks, Gabe. Okay, back onto printers. This is a question. How do you print such large objects with 3D printers? Because we do print large objects, things of the size of Mastodons. Aren't most of the things we print pretty small? Like, how do we make such large prints?
I'll take that. They are not a single piece. We have printers that are capable of printing about a cubic foot, but that's the extent. And so a Mastodon, like if you've seen our exhibit with the old man, that was something like 30 pieces. So we break it up into smaller components and glue them together.
How long does that usually take?
About a month of printing time on 3 different printers.
Oh, wow.
So about 3 months of printing time.
I think I came to the Western Science Center one time when you were starting to 3D print, oh my gosh, I am blanking on your Mastodon's name. Max! Max!
Max?
Oh gosh. It's been a long day. Yeah, I remember going there when you were printing Max, and I was just like astounded that I didn't know what it was. They're like, hey, what are you printing? You're like, oh, Mastodon. And I was like, oh, you're joking, right? And you're like, no. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you just print an entire Mastodon. It's fine. Yeah, that's see. Here's a question that I'll take really quickly. Why are we called the Western Science Center? So we actually had a different name originally. When we first opened in 2006, we were the Western Center for Archaeology and Paleontology. But we've changed that now to the Western Science Center because while we do a lot of paleontology, we do a lot of archaeology, we kind of want to be a center for science education in our regional area, which is called the Inland Empire. So a lot of our educational materials may be focused on archaeology and paleontology, but we've definitely expanded beyond then through our Science Saturdays and through other activities. So that's why we're called what we're called. Okay, here's a good question. How long do you think it will take to prep Mystic?
So I'll take that. I said a little earlier, usually fossils can take years. They can take years to complete. And Dr. Dooley, our executive director, has estimated it to be probably about 5 years of prep work at least. And, we have to contend with that it's outside and needs to be covered during the rainy season. It does actually rain here in Southern California every once in a while. And I have gotten a giant boat tarp to put over this huge animal. And, take it off. And then in the summers, it's really quite hot too. So I have to get my prep volunteers out there first thing in the morning, and they can only last a couple hours maybe, and then they got to come in when it's too hot. So there's only windows that you can work on something outdoor like that as well. So we have to factor that into the time. And it'll take several years. So you can come by and see it though, since it's outside. And when we have volunteers out there, you can walk by and watch them prepping and see the progress.
Yeah, our museum is working on some outdoor events, so check our website for that, where you will be able to see Mystic's progress. Oh, this is a good question. This is probably for Dr. McDonald. Any new upcoming dinosaur papers in the pipeline? Dr. McDonald is our curator, and he frequently focuses on dinosaurs. So do we have new stuff coming down the pipeline?
We do. That is something that we've been able to continue during the pandemic, even though, as I said, we had to cancel fieldwork this year. We've still been working on prep work and research and getting papers published. So let's see. Right now in the prep lab, we're working on a Tyrannosaur skeleton that we excavated last year. We are inching ever closer to the final stages of that. Probably still have several more months of prep work to do on that. We do have other dinosaurs that we've excavated over the last couple of years that should be seeing publication soon, probably next year, sometime next year. As well as other projects. We have projects on crocodilians, on mastodons, and on horses that Brittany has been working on. So Western Science Center as an institution will have a number of papers related to dinosaurs, mastodons, and horses, all coming out over the next year or so.
Awesome. Really quick, great question coming from our friends Sabrina and Garrett from the I Know Dino podcast. If you're looking for some really cool podcasts about dinosaurs, definitely check them out. Not because I was on it only, but because it's also a good podcast. But also, it was really cool. They're great. But also, I'm looking forward to all the really cool stuff coming out from the Western Science Center. Also, because I get inside scoops because we play Dungeons and Dragons with Andrew, and so sometimes I get to learn, and I've been waiting for these things to come out for a while.
I know, we are just as excited to start releasing it. And for the most part, we try to make a lot of our research open access. So this will be stuff that is available to the public when we do publish it. So you won't have to pay a journal fee or anything to be able to read our scientific literature. So we're working on that. I'm going to ask this question before I ask another question, because I think the other question is going to be a little more involved. So how do you clean a more recently deceased animal carcass? Since we did mention that. Oh, you want to go?
Okay. So Brett and I work together on it. So we're both like, we're usually the ones that do the dissections, and it's a wet lab environment. So we actually have to skin them and process them and feed them into the beetles. So you want to answer some more, Brett? You had something to say too.
You really handled it. I mean, skin them and strip them of their meat.
Brett,
sometimes we save some of the meat so that when we don't have something to feed them. We don't have an infinite supply of recently deceased animals, so we'll save some of the meat for later feedings to keep the beetles alive.
Brett.
Oh, I got to give a shout out too. Some of our stuff came from Lake Paris. They donated some really awesome animals to us and some really cool rattlesnakes and things they decided they weren't going to taxidermy. So they made a really cool donation to us, the Lake Paris State Park, the museum they have up there. So that was really amazing of them. So now our freezer's a bit fuller and I need to go get that bobcat from them, huh, Brett?
Brett, Leah,
for Friday.
For those at home, you said beetles. Can you clarify what you're talking about, please?
We have a colony of Dermestid beetles. So they're flesh-eating beetles. And they thrive in conditions where they have decomposing flesh. So it's convenient for us. They clean the bones off beautifully. And we then freeze the bones after they've come out of the beetles to kill any beetles that remained in little nooks and crannies that we can't get out. And then Leah works on preparing them for the collection.
Metal. Why does a paleontology museum need modern specimens?
For comparative purposes. If we find a gopher in some of the microfossils from a site we have, or after Friday, we'll have a gopher in our collection to compare it with.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. So I think this will be a fun question. So, this is for all of you. So just each of you can give us like a short little answer. How did you become interested in paleontology? So whoever wants to take that first, and this one's for all three of you. So short answers, please, because it's a really cool topic.
Okay.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm always one to raise my hand and go first.
Go for it, Leah.
Actually, I was interested in archaeology. First, I saw Indiana Jones when I was about 5 and said, Mama, I'm doing that. So she got me all the books she could find on it. She also got me all the dinosaur books too, because I was also one of those little girls that just loved dinosaurs. Never outgrew my love of them either. So when I hit college, I did not falter in my question. I said, I'm doing this, I'm doing archaeology, and it made it a lot easier to do my undergraduate because I was able to, know what I wanted to do already. So that helped a lot, but it was a long process, actually. I'm not actually a high school graduate. I got my GED at 17 when I moved out of the house. And then I moved to Florida with my ex-stepfather, actually, wonderful man. His name is James. I credit him for being able to make it all the way through college. It took me about 7 years to get my bachelor's degree in archaeology. It was actually a degree in anthropology with a concentration in archaeology. That is a big thing most people don't understand. When you are interested in paleontology, you would get a degree in biology or geology. Now, an archaeologist would get a degree in anthropology. And I always find that's a very important distinction because I get people that say, I want to study dinosaurs, but I'm going to go to such and such school for anthropology. And I'm like, you're not quite on the right track. And so making that distinction is really important. So I actually took a break after I graduated to do a little daycare and stay home with my kids for about 6 years. And I started volunteering over at the Western Science Center when we moved from Florida to California. So that was an amazing opportunity there. I ended up being able to get a job there. And Dr. Dooley, our executive director, actually taught me how to clean the fossils himself, which was an amazing opportunity. And I have the best teacher, in my opinion. And now I get to clean dinosaur bones all the time. And we have an archaeology collection as well. So I get to do archaeology too. So I have like the best of both worlds, and it is a dream job. I could cry right now just thinking about it. You can actually see the sign out my window. I can't wait to get back Friday. So go ahead. Anyone else?
Okay. I was a late bloomer. I was positive that I was going to be a lawyer until I was positive that I was going to be a K-12 teacher. And then I took geology classes in college and was fortunate enough to meet the fellow that wound up being my husband. who was going on an excavation in Virginia. We were at a school in Minnesota, of a Miocene whale, and that just sold me. It was such an amazing experience, camping for about a month and working on excavation all day, every day. Just really sold me. So I have focused on geology largely since then.
Well, I have been fascinated by dinosaurs since before I can remember. It's according to my parents, it was the first book I ever read was a dinosaur book. They would read them to me and then I would recite them back. And so it's also how I got to know all the crazy Latin and Greek names. It's like I couldn't say cereal, but I could say Diplodocus. So, through my early life, I always retained that fascination with animals in general, dinosaurs in particular. And so when I was I was a bit young for the whole Jurassic Park experience. I never saw the original film in theaters until 2 years ago. So for me, it was in 8th grade. I was still very much into dinosaurs and science. But in 2000, the Discovery Channel showed Walking with Dinosaurs. It was a documentary made by the BBC in which they essentially filmed it like a David Attenborough nature documentary. They filmed real-life backgrounds that had vegetation like the Mesozoic era, like a lot of ferns and cycads and conifer trees, and no grass. So very prehistoric-looking locations, and then inserted digital dinosaurs into those locations. So it was like they'd sent a film crew back to the Mesozoic and filmed the dinosaurs. And that show took me on a mental leap from just kind of, ooh, dinosaurs are cool and interesting, to, wow, we can actually learn a lot about these things from the fossil record, get to a point where we can actually visualize them and learn about them as living animals. And that was really the watershed moment for me. So all through high school, my goal was to go to college and get my degree in geology, which I did, and then on to graduate school to get my PhD in paleontology, and then eventually winding up out here as curator at the Western Science Center, where I get to do research and field work and work with a great group of people.
Awesome. Oh, cool. Do we have any questions from social media? Any more questions from social media, Gabe?
I actually have the one more for Leia.
All right.
Leia, what are your favorite tools to use in a prep lab? Do you just use pick and brushes?
Oh, I love this question so much. No, we use a lot of tools, actually. We'll use paintbrushes. We'll use the picks, too. But with the animals I'm working on at the moment, the Tyrannosaur is in this mudstone, but it has this hard iron concretion on it and run through with calcite. And calcite helps break up that iron, which is helpful when you want to get it off, but it also permeates into the bone and causes it to break apart. So that's also a problem. So if you're drilling and picking things off, things can go flying as well. But we actually have a variety of tools, and we did get a grant, which is fantastic. And we were able to purchase some new tools, and that was really amazing. So we had Paleo Tools, which I like that brand as well. And we now have Stone Tool Company tools. And my new favorite tool is the 322, because it really helps me do fine detail work and really get in those cracks and not actually nick the fossils. So when we're using the power tools, it's really important to go gently and go softly, because if you have a tool that is too powerful, you will literally just break apart the fossil. It can just like this, or you can drill a hole right through it and there is no getting that fossil back. You're gonna have a hole in it forever. And we do microscopic work on things sometimes. If I'm making nicks and holes, on fossils, Dr. McDonald over here is not going to be able to tell whether or not that was scavenging marks from other animals or from bugs or other things like that. So my work can really obscure some of the scientific data. So we need to be really careful when we're using tools and make sure that we're not using something too powerful. So we always start lower. We always start with the brushes and toothbrushes and water, move to the picks, and then we move up to the power tools. So it's a process. And I can tell you about the power tools all day, so I'll stop now.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. It's good to see you all.
All right, I guess that does it for this stop on our Let's Tour live stream. Thank you all so much for joining us. And really quick before we go, I know we joke around the whole day, but the Western Science Center is really an awesome museum here in the Southern California community, and our partner institution. So the Alf Museum would not be able to do a lot of the things we get to do without all of your help over there, like cosplay for science and things like that. So. Thank you all so much for being the second best museum in Southern California.
And we are not currently open to the public, although eventually we will be. We don't have an exact date for that yet, but when we are open, we are located in Hemet, California, and we will be very excited to welcome the public back. We are doing a couple of outdoor events and programs like this, so we are very active online, virtually, and outdoors when we can. So we'll see our adoring public when we open again.
All right. So we have one last stop on our National Fossil Day live stream Let's Tour event. Starting at 5 o'clock, we will be visiting the world-famous Brea Tar Pits to look at their collections and their excavation sites with two of their paleontologists, so please tune in at 5 o'clock. And as always, if you like this program and want to support more programs like it at the Alf Museum and the Western Science Center, you can find links on how to do that in the description below. If you want to learn about National Fossil Day from the National Park Services, visit them at www.nps.gov. I've been saying it all day. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more stories about paleontology. And we'll see you all at 5. Bye.